will adhere strictly to social distancing protocols. He spoke on News Desk.
Every candidate has to think beyond what the traditional assumptions are. You can't congregate people in appreciable numbers, and therefore, what do? I think now we will see the ingenuity of different candidates, but critically for the party, the key essence is that you don't go beyond the restrictions imposed by the national authorities. The party will not determine for anybody how they conduct their campaign, as long as they observe social distancing, they observe the hygiene protocols, and everything is done in such a way as to protect the people who are involved.
I would have thought that you put in some guidelines just to guide people with as human beings we're talking about, so that we are all guided, even though there's the general rules about social distancing and all that about COVID-19. Perhaps the party want to go an extra step to make sure that it really enforces all that government is doing.
Yeah, Roland, beyond the general guidelines, we've always had moral and persuasive guidelines about one's conduct and utterances and respect for the party, not undermining the party in one's campaign, operating within the rules, literally, of self-respect, respect for the party, respect for the national constitution. Those things have always been there. And you sign up and you sign off that you will not go beyond those limits. But we are talking about, if you ask me guidelines now, I believe we are talking about COVID guidelines.
Absolutely.
And essentially, for COVID guidelines, you can't go beyond the self-discipline that's been imposed by the hygiene protocols that we've all been asked to observe. Literally, as long as one protects oneself, one protects the rest of society. And that is something that requires a lot of self-discipline, and we must all observe. If you give rules, it's not a question of policing those rules. The rules now are very clear. If you don't have anything doing, don't step out of your home. That's a fact now. If you have something doing, you're going to campaign, make sure you protect yourself. You have your face mask on. You wash your hands as frequently as possible coming across any Veronica bucket in public. You have hand sanitizer with you. And whilst out there, you're careful not to touch your face and otherwise with your hand. So when you meet somebody you want to campaign to, or you meet a group you want to campaign to, you make sure they are sitting far enough apart, and that you are also sitting or standing far enough apart from them. And I think if we observe these individual self-protective mechanisms, we'll be protecting each other all the while. You can't have any more rules beyond that. The party is going to put out the full modalities for the election, but this is a generic matter that always happens. And as we speak now, all identity compiled in albums or registered for each constituency is with the National Secretariat of the party. And it is the National Secretariat as a custodian who will hand over those registers or albums, as we call them, in the local parliament, to the Electoral Commission.
Now, meanwhile, some affirmative action measures taken by the party earlier this year still hold. Mr. Boabing was hopeful the move will help retain some female members of parliament and other special groups in the party.
Yeah, we have already. All that has been done. Like I said, but for COVID, we would have voted by April 25th. And those are matters that come in at opening and filing of nominations period.
Okay.
Which happened way back in March, where women and youth had to pay only half of the required fee. And hopefully, by persuasion, many of the women who are proudly supporting the flag of Ghana in Parliament are likely to be returned to Parliament.
Now, in the Upper East region, the pilot registration exercise was generally smooth, with a total of 125 people successfully going through the process at the end of the exercise. Correspondent Albert Sori has this wrap from the Office of the Electoral Commission in Bolgatanga.
The Electoral Commission of Ghana here in the Upper East region is wrapping up the pilot registration exercise for the Upper East region. The exercise began yesterday, where we are told that 60 people in total took part in the exercise. Today, a few more people have come here and they have successfully gone through. Now, usually when you arrive, you are expected to go and have your temperature taken. From there, you wash your hands, and then you go through other protocols to ensure that you are not spreading the coronavirus. Here at the waiting area, they've also ensured social distancing. So we are going to talk to the regional director of the Electoral Commission so he can take us through what basically has been going on.
So far, I can say it's been smooth and successful in the sense that we haven't recorded any technical hitch or any other form of upset. Yesterday, we were able to record as many as 60, and today, as I speak with you, we've recorded 36. The day is still young. We are not done yet, and I believe that the number will increase as we go along.
One issue that came up was the fact that they needed to take a pause to update the machines. So that brought about a bit of a break. And so people who came here to take part in the exercise had to wait for a while.
We have two modes when they are working. We have the pilot mode or demo mode, that is demonstration mode, and the active mode. They had the signal, in my absence, they had a signal that they should switch over to one of the modes or the other. That is perhaps might have caused the hitch or the glitch temporary that we observed. For the technicians manning the kit, they had their training and they are now on. We are also doing our training with the other staff members who indeed go and replicate the exercise on the field proper when it comes to the real registration. We are ready. Commission training and everything, schedules are on point, and we are ready to roll.
The machines eventually were put back on track, and then the exercise continued.
Well, it's a cool process, and as a Ghanaian, you have to take part in everything that the government brings us, so it's good to.
Now, the Upper East Regional Minister, TANGOBA ABAYAGE, also came here just to talk to officials of the Electoral Commission and to also observe for herself how successful or otherwise the piloting exercise has been.
Sometimes these machines run into trouble, so we are hoping that we won't have that sort of challenge. As long as we don't have that and the machines have been upgraded and the features they are giving work well, I think we are good to go, and it's a good exercise for us.
From the Upper East Regional Office of the Electoral Commission here in Bolgatanga, my name is Albert Sori, reporting for Joy News.
Now, Deputy Minister of Information Pius Enam Hajide is adamant arguments of the opposition NDC and other pressure groups against the Electoral Commission over its compilation of the new voters register are flawed and not grounded in law. Appearing on the AM show with Bolsa South MP Dr. Clement Apak, he said all fears that Ghanaian citizens of voting age could be excluded from registering for not having passports or the national ID card are not true. He argues they have been well catered for, with the option for them to have guarantors at the time of registration.
Even when there is credible evidence, demonstrable evidence, that the Electoral Commission is proceeding in a trajectory where breeder documents are documents that are not easily available to the ordinary Ghanaian, in this case the passport and the Ghana card, then it presupposes that should that CI go through, those many millions of Ghanaians, and I know he can contest or prove me wrong, as far as I know, the statistics or the information available indicates that not more than 3 million Ghanaians have access to the passport. And even with the Ghana card, we know that the processes have not even been concluded. they are ongoing. They have always been fraught with challenges. Even where citizens have been registered, they have not gotten the cards. And in many parts of the country, many Ghanaians have not yet registered. So why would the Electoral Commission, if it has good intentions and indeed wants to execute to the maximum its core mandate of providing the avenue, the conduit, and putting in place the processes for citizens to be able to exercise their right to vote, why would that commission be seeking to narrow the opportunity, to narrow the rights of citizens to get on the voters' roll? Even when there is credible evidence, demonstrable evidence, that the Electoral Commission is proceeding in a trajectory where breeder documents are documents that are not easily available to the ordinary Ghanaian, in this case the passport.
Away from the voter register, 9 million Ghana cedis has been injected into the tourism industry to boost growth following the harsh impact of COVID-19. Taking her turn on rolling out guidelines for the tourism industry, Barbara Oting Jesse indicated the money will be accessed by industry players hardly hit by the pandemic. The facility is being paid by the World Bank under the Ghana Tourism Development Project. Barbara Oting Jesse announced this at this morning's COVID-19 update press conference at the Information Ministry.
Of December, registered 100% occupancy. Arts and craft dealers at our arts center also reported a doubling of their sales in 2019 compared to the year 2018, as well as our car rental services, which registered increased patronage. However, the gains have been eroded by the coronavirus pandemic. In view of the devastating effects of the COVID-19 on the sector, government has introduced interventions to ameliorate the impact on businesses, and the tourism and hospitality sector is also going to benefit from these interventions. For instance, the stimulus package of 600 million Ghana cedis through the NBSSI to stimulate economic activity of businesses in the SME sector, as well as the 3 billion facility for larger businesses, will also benefit the operators in the tourism and hospitality sector. Also, the ministry, under the Ghana Tourism Development Project, which is a World Bank funded project, an amount of $9 million has been earmarked for interventions to boost the tourism industry. And this will be disbursed $4 million to support tourism sites and destinations development, and $5 million for tourism enterprise support for SMEs within the tourism value chain. His Excellency the President has also constituted an interministerial committee to assess the impact of COVID-19 on the tourism and hospitality sector specifically, and propose a stimulus package to alleviate the impact of the pandemic and protect jobs and ensure the industry recovers post-COVID-19. In order to further support the recovery of the tourism and hospitality sector, the President, in his address the last Sunday, eased certain restrictions on the operations of the sector, and we hereby provide the guidelines in that respect for compliance by all operators. In respect of the food and beverage industry, comprising the restaurants, chop bars, snack bars, highway rest stops, fast food and coffee and tea shops, they may operate with the following guidelines: the display of no mask, no entry signage, and ensure that all patrons are wearing masks on entry, mandatory wearing of masks and protective clothing by kitchen staff, provision of soap and running water and hand sanitizers and disinfectant gels with paper towels at public areas, and the guests should be reminded when entering and leaving to wash their hands as well as use the sanitizers. They are also required to limit the number of guests for dining to 50% of the current carrying capacity of the venue to ensure that adequate spacing for seating and maintaining social distancing of 1 meter can be adhered to. Regular disinfection of surfaces must be done where it is inappropriate to use bleach, for instance, for surfaces such as telephones, remote control equipment, door handles, buttons on elevators, etc. Alcohol-based sanitizers with 70% and above alcohol must be used. When you have to undertake a buffet-style service, you must ensure to have staff at the food station to serve the guests. You must limit communal handling of serving ladles, and you must change the ladles more frequently, always leaving these items in separate.
Now, the Information Minister has hit back at the minority, accusing them of distracting government in the fight against COVID-19. The NDC MPs are demanding an audit into how government expended the 280.3 million Ghana cedis to distribute hot meals to the vulnerable during the lockdown period in Accra and other parts of the country. At a news conference at the NDC's headquarters in Accra, the minority spokesperson on finance, Kayzola Tuforson, said government was taking advantage of the COVID-19 pandemic to create, loot and share state resources. But speaking at the daily press briefing in Accra today, KOJO NKRUMAH said government remains focused despite the attempts by the opposition to distract it.
The COVID-19 response program is still ongoing. All of you are here because the program is still ongoing, interventions are being made, the activities are going. It's not been completed. The accounts for the 2020 financial year, as I'm sure you are all aware, are nowhere near close to preparation. Be prudent for all of this exercise to be completed, for the accounts to be put together, for the Auditor General to do a standard audit, and if he believes there's a reason to go further to do a special audit, may go further. Within that context, I think we can all understand how premature this call for a special audit, when the program has not even ended, comes across. But as we have said over and over again, it is increasingly becoming clear that our colleagues in the minority always look for an opportunity to raise some controversy in a hope to distract us from the COVID-19 response program itself. But we will not be distracted.
Let's shift our focus from the press briefing, but stay with COVID because stigmatization is suicidal and destructive. That's the warning from Osajifo Amwetia for Penning, who has our hashtag Stop the Stigma against persons who have recovered from COVID-19 campaign today. Let's hear him.
My name is Osajifo Amwetia for Penning. I am to talk to you today about COVID-19 and its problem of stigmatization. Stigmatization is suicidal, as you know. It has a psychological and emotional problem that are very destructive. It reduces those who have gotten it to be considered as outcasts in a society, which is not good. Rather, it should be a source of hope for us as we trace and treat and test. All of us should join hands to stop the stigma, to win the fight against COVID-19. God bless you.
And the hashtag remains Stop the Stigma. Still up ahead in the bulletin, Works and Housing Minister to haul former NDC appointees before court for allegedly misappropriating funds. Stay with us. Thanks for staying with us. Now, Works and Housing Minister Samuel Atachian says former government officials in the NDC government will be hauled before court soon for allegedly criminally misappropriating funds meant for the Saglemi housing project. He says despite the state paid more than 90% of the contract sum, only 1,000 housing units have been built instead of 5,000. Responding to questions on the floor of Parliament, he said the case will soon be sent to the Attorney General for prosecution after an audit by the Institute of Surveyors. Joseph Opoku-Gakpo is joining us with more details of this story. Joseph, first of all, run us through what the minister said and what else is happening in the House.
He expresses concern that when it comes to the Saglemi housing project, a contract was approved by Parliament, which Minister for Works and Housing then, Collins Dauda, unilaterally altered without the required parliamentary approval, alongside some chief directors at the ministry, which he says is subsequently produced a contract that's null and void. He's making the point that there is currently an audit that's ongoing by the Institute of Surveyors as far as this particular project is concerned. The NPP government is convinced that some criminal dealings occurred with regards to this project, which is how come the Office of the Attorney General is being introduced, so that then they would go ahead with the necessary investigations and all. Apart from that, the Minister for General Children and Social Protection has also been responding to questions on the floor of Parliament earlier today, generally about what was done in order to ensure that during the lockdown period, vulnerable people got the necessary support. And she says the supply of food went on, the supply of water went on, and even when it comes to things like psychological services, vulnerable people are still receiving some of those supports till date. Just to finally touch on this, on the Saglemi project issue, the Speaker of Parliament, Professor Michael Quay, referred the matter separately to the Committee of Works and Housing, as well as the leadership of the Constitutional and Legal Affairs Committee, to get back to Parliament with an urgent report, particularly probing the bit about how come a contract that was approved by Parliament was subsequently varied without parliamentary approval. And so the House is expected to look at a number of other issues. There is a statement that's been delivered on the floor even before the House agenda sitting for today.
Right, so Joseph, just to capture what you said there about the Works and Housing Minister, he is basing his claims on what he's uncovered so far, but I'm not hearing anything newer than what he's been saying in the past, being Mr. Atachian.
He makes the point that the current audit that's ongoing at the level of the Institute of Surveyors is aimed at uncovering the evidence which will eventually be the basis for the said prosecution he speaks of, except that it doesn't specifically give a date on which that prosecution would come off. And then he also makes the point that the audit that's ongoing will also result in civil action against some former government officials, so that then specific sums can actually be recovered.
Right. Thank you very much, Joseph Opoku-Gakpo, for joining us with those details. Now, infrastructural and other challenges are impeding healthcare delivery as the Seventh-day Adventist Hospital at Riamwase in the Setre South District of Ashanti region. Authorities say work on expansion projects initiated have come to a standstill due to fundraising constraints. The situation has resulted in congestion and increased referrals amid pressure on personnel and facilities. Nana Sensumenta reports.
The mother and baby unit project at the hospital has stalled for over 10 years while the existing maternity block is overstretched. Authorities are applying internally generated funds with support from some individuals in the area to improve facilities at a slow pace. Medical Superintendent Dr. Michael Ado provides some details.
The ongoing maternity block, in fact, we've raised the building up. We are plastering at the moment. We are trying to complete it by the close of this year. But it is very difficult and challenging for us because of lack of funds. This whole project has become a success because of one native of Riamwase who has been very instrumental in supporting us in bringing this building us to where we've reached so far. So we are appealing to well-meaning Ghanaians, citizens of Riamwase, and anybody at all who would like to help us complete this project, to support us in any way that they can. As we have it now, we have the fixing of the doors and windows to be done, ceiling, tiling of the floor, and the provision of the beds that we will be using in the ward. So we appeal that anybody that can support us in that direction, we will be very welcome.
Limited space at the existing maternity block hampers health delivery. Some patients are compelled to lie on mattresses on the floor and babies are exposed to infections. The stalled 100 capacity MBU project is expected to provide a solace when it is completed. Dr. Michael Addo again.
As I said, it's been very difficult for us in terms of space for service delivery. And this is a big building that if you go in, you will see that it is quite a big project. It is going to help ease some of the congestion that we experience at some times of the year. And it is going to help in seamless delivery of service to the patients.
How congested is the place?
Very. Sometimes you can come and you don't even find space for patients. You may have to put mattresses on the floor for patients to lie on before you can attend to them. So with the coming on board of this one, it will be very helpful. At least we have enough space, enough rooms to cater for over 60 to 100 patients.
Nana Asensumensa reporting.
Now, media managers in the country are being urged to partner with telecom companies to offset their rising data costs as they resort to the use of video conferencing app Zoom in the wake of coronavirus pandemic. The industry has had to adapt quickly to new methods in adherence to social distancing protocols. General Manager of City FM and City TV, Bernard Avle, says innovations such as Zoom have helped the industry.
If I can bring 4 guests from all over the world via Zoom for my TV show, why on earth do they need to drive and come at 9 p.m. post-COVID? It doesn't make sense. Because COVID has actually helped me have better panelists. Because in the past, I thought people wanted them to be seen physically. But now, with internet, I can see them from anywhere. So that's one of the things. The other point is about leanness. COVID won't happen every year. And not everybody will plan for another COVID. But it's helped people to reassess themselves about the model they are running. So there's going to be a lot of thinking about, do I really need 6 people to do this when one person can do it?
Exactly.
And now that initially would affect jobs. But when a business is efficient and can produce the same result with fewer people, it frees up other resources to do other things. And society is bettered. Third point, the human being is actually the center of everything. So whereas, yes, people may be sacked, all the things we are doing, it's people that are doing it, right? And so investing in the skills of your people, okay? So you have journalists who can do data crunching, work with Excel, because some of the figures, you have to analyze it, okay? Who can do infographics and things. So we realize that people need to we need to invest more in people, because computers won't make meaning for you in the sense in which people can. So that's another point. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's but it's also scary.
There's more in the upcoming Hotline documentary by Araba Coombs entitled The Media, A Virus and Survival, which throws the spotlight on the impact of COVID-19 on the traditional media in Ghana. Is scheduled to be aired on Monday, June 8. Now, speaking of that specific day, Monday, June 8, the Supreme Court has ordered the Electoral Commission to provide the legal basis for its refusal to accept voter ID cards as a form of identification for the upcoming voter registration exercise on that very day, the 8th of June, 2020. Joseph Akable goes to court for us, and he joins us live. Joseph, take us through what happened in court today.
And so, Daniel, this has to do with the case that the NDC has filed challenging the EC to compile a new voters register. And one of the points they raise in there is that if even the court decides to allow the commission to go ahead to register, they have to raise questions about why it has decided not to allow people to use the existing voter ID card as a form of identification to participate in this registration. The NDC was represented in court by Gordon Tamaklo, and the EC is represented by Justin Amenu. But when the case was called, the justice noted that the point relating to the exclusion of the voters' ID card, they want the EC to address them specifically on that. And so they gave the EC up until June 8 to file legal arguments justifying why the existing voter's ID card cannot be used as proof of identification for anyone to participate in this registration exercise. The point also made that the lawyers for the NDC and the AG's office, if they are minded to do so, can also respond to what the EC filed by way of legal argument on ways of points of law, respond only to points of law relating to the submission that the EC will be making. Then they come back to court on June 11, where hopefully, if the court is minded and ready to deliver a decision on the way forward, the court will do so.
Now, Joseph, we know the pilot exercise just finished and the main registration exercise should take place at the end of June. What are the implications of this decision by the court?
In fact, what it means is that, as it stands now, there are legal issues that ought to be settled by the apex court. The expectation of those who are parties to this particular case is to the effect that they expect that the apex court will settle this particular matter before the actual mass registration exercise commences, because they want a clarity on whether or not the AC can go ahead to undertake this exercise and whether or not people can use the voter's ID card or not. And so, as it stands now, nothing stops the AC from doing what it's doing currently, but this determination of this matter, once the court does it, will put the matter to rest and give a clear line of action for the commission in terms of its quest to compile a new voters register.
Now, Joseph, you've been going to court for us for quite a bit of time now. It might be difficult to tell, but does this give any form of indication of the direction in which the Supreme Court is headed, this decision they've taken?
We know that the bit about what proof identity came up in the case of Abu Ramadan versus the Electoral Commission. In fact, in that particular case, the court, when it held that the voters, the NHIS card cannot be used as proof of citizenship, did indicate that the voter's ID card was proof of identification, because if people were not 18 and were not Ghanaians in the first place, they would not have been able to acquire that particular card. And so this was a matter that has come before the Supreme Court in a different form relating to one CI that has been passed by Parliament. The best we can say is that the court appears to want to hear from both sides on a particular contentious matter that is pronounced on in a similar fashion previously. And so we get a sense that it's leaning towards wanting to decide on that particular matter, which persists to be very crucial to this particular dispute. And so in terms of what we can expect, at least we can get a sense that the justices want to be convinced as to whether the voter ID card should be excluded or not excluded. And that is what they're looking to hear from the lawyers in the case.
So the position of the court in the Abu Ramadan case cannot be held as precedent. And even if it was, this is the Supreme Court, isn't it, Joseph? It's not bound by its own precedent.
The point is that this particular one, in terms of that particular case, the main issue that was for determination has to do with the fact that it's related to the NHIA card.
Right.
But so that in terms of the legal system, that officer, it's a comment that the court was making whilst ruling on a particular matter, that it made that pronouncement that the voter's ID card is proof of identification. And so once this particular matter has come up, it's not a matter that the Supreme Court has pronounced on directly in that sense, but has made comments on which obviously the NDC case, the NDC lawyers will be drawing inspiration from in the matters that they filed in the court to draw the court's attention that you had made this particular comment on this particular card some time back. And so it's important that you look at it that way.
Joe, thank you very much for educating us this morning, this afternoon. Now coming up in business, Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, calls for investigation into food price hikes despite sustained supply. Daryl is next with more on that story and other business issues. Stay with us.
Take a tour through Ghana's fastest growing online portal, www.adumonline.com, for local and international news, business, entertainment, politics, lifestyle, sports, and more. Watch the most intriguing YouTube videos on demand and live streaming of Adum TV, Ghana's #1 television station. Listen to live radio and podcast of all your favorite Adum FM programs, no matter your location and time. AdumOnline.com is an audio, photos, and video focused website. We break the news as and when it happens. ADUMOnline.com is on web and app, making it easy to visit via phone, tablet, and desktop. ADUMOnline.com, Ghana's most comprehensive news portal.
Hello, welcome to Business. My name is Darryl Kwao. The Food and Agriculture Organization, the FAO, wants a comprehensive look into concerns about the high prices of food items here in the country. Now, over the last few weeks, many have complained about the spike in food prices at the various markets, despite the sustained supply of food amid the coronavirus pandemic. Abebe Haile Gabriel is the FAO Assistant Director General and Regional Representative for Africa.
There is enough food available in the markets. Is it logistic-related problems, transport-related problems? Is it trade-related problems? Is it production-related problems? You know, in agriculture, you don't just sow the seeds now and get the results tomorrow. It takes time. But unless the agricultural activities, including planting, are taking place at the right time, and if seeds and other inputs such as fertilizer are not provided to farmers at the right time, and if we miss the planting season, it means we will even contribute more to the cost of food next time. So it requires a comprehensive approach. We have to understand the root causes, but I understand that the government of Ghana and its partners are doing their best towards addressing this in a systematic and strategic manner. In the short term, I think this is something that all countries, not just Ghana, are faced with, this temporary shortage. Some of it is really caused artificially.
Now, the Bolgatanga branch of Republic Bank has donated some personal protective equipment to the Upper East Regional Hospital to help in the fight against the spread of COVID-19. According to management of the branch, the donation is in line with the bank's vision of social responsibility and building successful communities. Correspondent Albert Sori has more.
The Bolgatanga branch of Republic Bank was opened 5 years ago to serve the people of the Upper East region. Formerly called HFC Bank, Republic Bank believes in helping build successful communities in its operational areas. According to the deputy manager of the Bolgatanga branch, Selim Nuruaki BJ, it is in line with this vision that Republic Bank decided to support the regional hospital at Bolgatanga in the fight against the spread of the coronavirus.
We want to say a very big thank you for the entire team for the cases that they've managed very successfully so far since the first case broke in the Upper East region. We say a very big thank you for the top management and the entire team. We want to convey one of the bank's vision of social responsibility and building successful community together. As part of that, management and the entire team of Bolgatanga branch, through our staff volunteerism program, have donated PPEs to the Bolga Regional Hospital as part of our effort towards the fight against COVID-19. We are residents in Bolga, and it could not be appropriate than this time. We saw the need to come in, say thank you first of all, and also donate the PPEs to support them fight the common enemy we all have, COVID-19.
The items donated by Republic Bank to the Bolgatanga Hospital included 80 packets of examination gloves, 10 packets of surgical gloves, 5 pairs of gum boots, 10 pieces of face shield, and 5 packets of hair covers. The rest were 5 packets of shoe covers, 15 packets of face masks, and 10 pieces of goggles. The items were valued at a total cost of 10,250 Ghana cedis. Receiving the donation, the Deputy Chief Medical Officer of the Bolgatanga Hospital, Dr. Samuel Abura, said the items were very vital to the staff of the hospital as they battled daily to stop the spread of COVID-19.
This hospital is the only treatment center for managing COVID-19 patients in the Upper East region for now. It is not only that, we also look out for suspected COVID-19 cases. So we have a holding center for such cases where we manage them. The personal protective equipment, they are very vital tools for us in the delivery of quality services to COVID-19 patients, suspected patients, and even other patients that we manage. So these PPEs have come to augment what we have already.
For Joy News, Albert Sori, reporting from Bolgatanga.
And there's more business news coming up at 1 o'clock on the marketplace. Do stay tuned. Sports is up next.
We know you've been badly affected by this virus, yet you defy the fear of the unknown to fight this virus on our behalf. For this, we say thank you very much.
The nurses and doctors who go on to sacrifice each day, we just can't thank you enough.
We feel safe because we know you are there. Thank you all, our frontline health workers.
To every pharmacist, every doctor, every nurse, and those of you who work at the hospital or isolation centers, we love you. Don't give up.
To all frontline health workers, the fate of humanity depends on you. We thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
In the world, the media is getting saturated with lots of hoax news stories, false claims, exaggerated headlines. Simply, fake news is spreading fast.
In this pandemic, fake news is a new infodemic. But fearless journalists at Joy News are on the front line fighting fake news with a series of fact-checked, compelling news reports. The Joy News Combat Fake News Project, clearing the blurry lines between fake news and the news.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome to the sports segment with me, Oreku. Before we do start off from some Ghana news, where President of the Football Association, Keto Kreku, has described the decision of government to extend restrictions on contact sports to July 31st as challenging. Now, the revelation cast doubt on the potential resumption of football anytime soon. There's more in this report.
The Minister of Youth and Sports, Isaac Esiama, announced that it would